My name is Oliver. Seeing your own number on your phone does something to your brain that's hard to explain. It's not fear exactly. It's more like your mind stalls for a second because it knows something isn't supposed to be possible. I was home alone when it happened. It was a normal weekday evening, nothing unusual. I had eaten, taken a shower, and I was just sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone with the TV on low in the background. The kind of quiet night where you don't expect anything to happen. Then, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach tighten instantly. The caller ID showed my own number. At first, I actually laughed. I thought it had to be a glitch. Maybe my phone bugged out or the network was acting up. I'd never seen it before, but I also never assumed it meant anything serious. Still, something about it felt wrong. I stared at it for a few seconds, watching my own number vibrate on the screen like it was mocking me. The weirdest part was how familiar it looked. It's my number. I've typed it into forms, I've said it out loud. Seeing it call me made my brain react like it was looking at a reflection that was moving on its own. I answered. Hello? Nothing. No background noise, no breathing, not even static. Just silence so clean it felt artificial. I pulled the phone away from my ear and checked the call timer. It was still connected. For a second, I thought maybe I'd accidentally called myself somehow, like I'd pressed something on the screen. But I checked, no outgoing call, and the phone was clearly receiving one. Then I heard it. My own voice. At first, it was faint, like it was coming from far away or played through a cheap speaker. But within a few seconds, I recognized exactly what it was. A recording of me earlier that day. I knew because I remembered saying it. It was a casual sentence I'd spoken while I was in my kitchen, talking to myself the way people do when they're alone. Something about what I was planning to eat later and how I needed to get something done before tomorrow. The words weren't important. The fact that someone had them was. My skin went cold. I sat up straight and turned the TV off without even thinking. The room suddenly felt too quiet, like the sound from the phone was the only thing proving I was still awake. The recording played for maybe 10 seconds. Then it stopped. And right after it stopped, I heard a sound that wasn't mine. A quiet laugh. Not loud, not dramatic. More like a small, controlled exhale that carried a hint of amusement, like whoever was listening found my reaction entertaining. I didn't speak. I couldn't. The call ended immediately after that. I stared at my screen like it might ring again. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I checked my call history. Nothing outgoing. No voicemail. No missed calls besides the one I'd just answered, from myself. I stayed on the couch for a long time just listening to the apartment. I even walked through every room, checking the locks, checking the windows, checking the balcony door. Everything was exactly the way it should be. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that something had already happened, and I'd only just noticed. The next day, I called my carrier and explained what happened. The customer service rep didn't sound surprised. They told me it was most likely caller ID spoofing, something scammers can do using internet-based calling tools. They said it happens. They said to ignore it. That explanation should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because spoofing explains the number. It doesn't explain the recording. It doesn't explain how someone had a clip of my voice from inside my kitchen earlier that day, saying something I never posted, never sent, and never recorded on purpose. And after that night, I stopped talking to myself when I'm alone. Not because I think someone is always listening, but because I know it only takes one time for someone to prove they were. Technology makes a lot of things easier. It also makes it easier for someone to pretend, 'pretend 'to 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 'pret
The first night we heard it, we assumed the monitor was malfunctioning. That's what you tell yourself when you're running on 3 hours of sleep and your house suddenly makes a noise that doesn't belong to it. After our son was born, we did what every new parent does and over-prepared. We installed a baby monitor with everything: audio detection, motion alerts, temperature tracking, even night vision recording that stored clips automatically. It synced to both our phones. It was reliable. We tested it obsessively before we ever trusted it overnight. For the first few weeks, it worked exactly as expected. Every time the baby cried, we heard it instantly. Every time he rolled or kicked, the motion alert triggered. It felt reassuring knowing we'd be alerted to anything unusual. Then one night around 2:17 a.m., my phone lit up with an audio alert. It wasn't uncommon for him to stir around that time, so I reached for my phone half asleep and opened the live feed. The room looked normal. He was asleep. The little nightlight in the corner cast a soft glow across the crib. No movement. But the audio indicator was still active. I turned the volume up. At first, I thought it was just interference, a faint hiss, maybe the Wi-Fi cutting in and out. Then I focused. It wasn't static. It sounded like whispering. Not actual words, no language, just soft, irregular bursts of breath, like someone trying to speak without opening their mouth, a sound that sat somewhere between air and voice. I felt fully awake instantly. I nudged my wife and handed her the phone. She listened for a few seconds and looked at me with the same expression I was trying not to show. We both got up and went into the nursery. The room was exactly as we left it. Windows closed, door shut, our son sleeping peacefully. The whispering stopped the moment we stepped inside. We checked under the crib, inside the closet, behind the chair. Nothing. We assumed it was a glitch. The next night, it happened again. 2:17 a.m. Audio alert. Same sound. That whispering, breath-like noise. Soft and close to the microphone, but impossible to place. We didn't even look at each other that time. We just listened. And for the first time, I noticed something else. It wasn't random. It followed a rhythm. 3 soft bursts. Pause. 2 softer ones. Pause, almost like breathing that was being controlled. We checked the timestamps the next morning. Every single alert, audio or motion, had happened at exactly 2:17, not 2:16, not 2:18, exactly 2:17. That's when we stopped trying to explain it away casually. I checked the Wi-Fi logs, nothing unusual, no unknown devices connected, no network spikes. I even unplugged the monitor completely one night and left it off. At 2:17 a.m., my wife woke up on her own. She said she heard something through the wall, not the monitor, from inside the nursery, a faint breath-like sound. We moved our son into our room the next day. The nursery stayed empty for a week. The monitor never activated again after that. We still use a camera, but not in that room. I don't claim to know what caused it. I don't jump to conclusions. I understand technology fails. Audio compresses strangely, signals interfere. But what I can't explain is the timing, or why it stopped when the room was no longer occupied. We don't talk about it much now, but neither of us has ever set an alarm at 2:17 a.m. since. It's one thing to hear something strange. It's another when it keeps a schedule.
I trusted the GPS because I didn't know the area. That was the whole reason I was using it. I had no idea where I was going, and I didn't want to rely on road signs in the dark. I was driving back from visiting a friend in a town I'd never been to before. It was already late when I left, sometime after 11 p.m., and the roads were mostly empty. The town itself wasn't big, but once you got outside of it, everything turned into long stretches of unlit rural roads. No streetlights, no houses close together, just fields and patches of forest. I set my GPS before leaving and didn't think much of it. For the first half hour, everything was normal. Clear directions, predictable turns. I followed the voice instructions without question. Then it told me to turn left onto a narrow road that didn't look well traveled. I hesitated for a second, but I didn't know the area. The GPS showed it as the fastest route, so I took it. The road got darker almost immediately. No reflective paint, no visible mailboxes, just trees lining both sides and occasional open fields. My headlights felt like they were being swallowed by the dark. About 10 minutes later, I passed a broken wooden sign leaning slightly toward the road. It looked old, like it had been hit years ago and never fixed. Right after that was a large tree with a strange bend in the trunk, and then an abandoned shed sitting back in a field. I noticed it only because it looked out of place. Then, the GPS spoke again. Turn left. I slowed down. The turn looked almost identical to the one I had taken earlier. Same narrow road, same lack of lighting. I didn't question it, I just followed. 10 minutes later, I passed the broken sign again. Same angle, same bent tree, same shed. There was no way I had misidentified it. The placement was too specific. That's when the irritation shifted into something else. I pulled over. The engine was still running. The headlights illuminated part of the field beside me. Everything beyond that was complete darkness. I looked at my phone. The signal bars were gone. Completely. No service. The GPS screen froze for a second. Then the map disappeared. I told myself it was just rural reception dropping. Then I heard it. A car door closing. Behind me. It wasn't loud. It wasn't slammed. It was the distinct solid sound of a door being shut carefully. I didn't turn around. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. Every part of me wanted to check the rearview mirror, but something about the silence after that sound made me feel like looking would make it worse. I shifted into drive immediately and accelerated. The tires kicked up gravel as I pulled back onto the road. I didn't wait for the GPS. I didn't wait for signal. I just drove straight. No turns. After about 5 minutes, my signal bars returned. The GPS screen flickered back on like nothing had happened. The route was normal again. No recalculating, no strange detours. I reached a main road shortly after and finally felt like I was somewhere recognizable. When I checked my trip history later, it showed no loops, no repeated sections, just a clean route. But I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. I still use GPS, but if it ever sends me down an unlit road in the middle of nowhere at night, I don't follow it automatically anymore. Because getting lost is one thing, being guided in circles is another.